Hey folks, Scott Perkins here from the Bearded Butchers. On today's video, we're going to be showing you how to skin a lamb. Now this practice can be used not only for lamb, but we can also use it on goat, deer, pretty much any smaller animal. I'm going to be using this skinning cradle, which just happens to be made for this purpose. You can certainly fashion something similar yourself if you're going to be doing this a number of times. I'm going to be opening up the legs of the lamb. Seth will take over from there. And you might be surprised at how little knife work is needed as Seth actually gets into this lamb. So today we're going to be thinking about two things. Obviously, number one is the integrity of the meat. We want to keep the meat wholesome and clean. In this case, also, the hide could be used for leather, so we'll just get started. First cut I make right across the hock right here. You'll notice a lot of times I'll use my knife and I'll clean the wool off of my knife because I don't want that. Now the heel of my knife, I like to keep it close to the leg, so that way the point of my knife is not digging into the meat. And then I'm also pulling back on this leg just to keep that pressure so that I can follow my cut down through the leg right here. So I'll just take and I'll make an incision right along the back here. And when I come around the other side, I'll pick that up. Now what I like to do here is I actually like to pinch the leg. Using my Victorinox 6-inch boning knife, I pinch the leg between my knees, and then I can grab it with one hand, reach over with this hand, and I can just expose that Achilles tendon, make a incision there for our gambrel. If you make a cut right across the back of the hock right here, and then you apply some light pressure, you're gonna pop right through that joint. At that point, that side's done. Repeat the process for this side. Cross the hock, make that incision. Remember, keep that knife, the heel of that knife low, so that way you're not digging into that leg of lamb. Keep that wool and contamination off of your knife. And then I'm pulling away with the hide with my non-knife hand. Make that cut right there across that Achilles. Again, we're gonna score this joint right here, and then we can just apply some light pressure. Snap through there. All right, at this point, this thing's ready for the gambrel. Seth's gonna put it on the hoist. Again, if you don't have an electric hoist, you got a limb over a tree, you can pull this up. And he's going to show you how he takes this from where I've stopped, and he's going to take this thing all the way through till this hide's completely removed. So stay tuned.
Howdy folks, Seth Perkins here. Like Scott said, we're at White Feather Meats, we're butchering a lamb. I'm going to show you how we skin it. We're actually going to do it two different ways. One method is going to be pulling it down by hand. The second method is going to be using our hoist. So if you don't have a hoist and you want to skin a lamb, no problem. We'll show you how to do it just using your hands and a knife. Also, we have what's called a gambrel. Super handy. You almost have to have something like this. Not necessarily this particular gambrel. These, or ones similar to this, are available online. We'll throw a link in our description showing you guys where to get one. Great investment, get a gambrel. It's gonna change your life when it comes to actually hanging this animal up in the air for the skinning process. So let's just go ahead and get started. You can see when Scott broke these legs off, he left this tendon intact. That's very important. So now we simply wanna just put our gambrel through those hocks. We're gonna lower our hoist. And if you don't have an electric hoist, not a problem. You can use a rope, string it over a tree branch, whatever it works to get that animal elevated off the ground is really the most important part. So you want to get it, about shoulder height, and from here, we're just going to start skinning. Today, going to be using Victorinox 6-inch semi-stiff. Obviously, like we've mentioned before, this one's been honed down because of excess use. Makes it nice because you can use pinpoint accuracy around all these different areas. So let's just go ahead and get started. Using your fingers on your left hand or your right, depending if you're right-handed or left-handed, pulling this hide back, keeping that wool off of the meat we want to just separate this seam on this leg. So we're going to start on one side, going to go all the way across. We're going to flip over and do the same thing on this side. Using just the tip of your knife, being careful not to put big gouges in the meat. Located right here is the leg of lamb, so you certainly wouldn't want big hack marks in there. Slowly working your way around this hock. And you can see that I'm using my left hand to pull and apply some pressure here as we go. And I'm going to show you one really important step while you're skinning, is that right here is this membrane that we talk a lot about that's located right between the meat and the hide. You want to keep this membrane on the carcass and not on the hide, and I'll show you why. Working our way down. Continuing to separate that membrane from the hide. The first initial starting process is the most important part. Once you get that started, you can take your hand and apply some pressure on this hide and start pulling it down. So we'll get to this point, we'll cut through the bung. Working our way all the way around. It's easier once you get this started and this hide starts to fall over on its own. That way you don't have to worry about it actually flipping over against the carcass as you're skinning. So we get to this point, you can use your knee, kind of stable the animal here so it doesn't swing around on you. And this is where you want to separate that rose meat that we talk a lot about from the hide. So you can see that rose meat right there. You want to leave that on the animal, not on the hide. So go ahead and start that side, switch over here, and do the same thing on this side. You can see I'm just using my knife, making these nice long strokes, getting that started. So once you get down here and you have the rose meat started and this membrane, at this point I'm just going to go ahead and wash my hands and I'll be back. So took a break, went over and washed my hands. The reason why I wanted to do that is you want to keep the hand that you're using to do this pushing, you want to keep it super clean because that's the hand that's going to be against the carcass. So you can see I'm just going to start using my hand, my fingers a little bit, and just start peeling this hide off. It's pretty amazing that at this point, I'm going to use my knife very little. Maybe if I get to a point here where I need to help it along, just grab your knife, give it a little assistance. Making sure that rose meat stays on the carcass. It's just going to be a whole lot easier to peel this hide off here the entire way down through this carcass. Once you get this all started, you're ready just to rock and roll. So at this point, pretty much got that membrane or that rose meat separated from the hide. Using downward pressure like that, you can just continue to push this hide down. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and raise my hoist. Using my knife very, very little at this point. Keeping that carcass nice and clean by keeping that hide pulled away. Use your body weight to help you assist in this. Take this hand, put it under the hide. Just continue to push down. Get these shanks opened up. ahead and raise my hoist. Sometimes on this neck, it can be a little bit harder to pull. So you may need to get your knife out and assist just a little. There you have it. Pretty much skinned that lamb from the legs down without much use of the knife. So that's how you skin it without a hoist. Next one, we're going to show you how to use the hoist. All right, guys, round two. So you saw us skin the lamb by hand using a knife, and then a lot of our fists pushing the hide down. Now we're going to pull this hide by using our hoist. We're going to go ahead and get started again. This process is pretty much the same. We want to get this hide opened up around the backs of these legs, being careful not to cut into the leg of lamb, just like you saw us do on the last one. So we're going to go ahead and just get this opened up. We wanted to show you both ways of doing this, so if you do not have a hoist at home, you do not have to feel intimidated. You can still butcher that lamb and get it skinned by hand without the use of the equipment. So we're going to go ahead and keep opening this up, cutting down through the belly, exposing this rose meat on the left and right side. Just remember, this is the most important part, because if you don't get this down pat, you are going to make a mess out of skinning this lamb. So if you get this started, this hide's going to peel off just like you're removing a glove. So this part is key. Find that rose meat, work that knife blade right along that rose meat, making those nice long cuts all the way up. Now at this point, we can just start pulling a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and wash the knife. At this point, we can start peeling this hide off. You can see right here, maybe where it starts to pull that membrane off the carcass, so that's where you get your knife out, help it just a little bit, and then go back to using your hand. Same here, you can see, get a visual for it. When you know that things are starting to go south, just get your knife out and help it a little bit. Pretty much any animal that you're skinning this way, whether it's a deer or an elk or even the small animals like raccoons and muskrats, they're pretty much all the same. Your hide buyer is going to love you if he gets a hide and all that isn't left on the hide. It's a lot less fleshing that you have to do. All right, so now at this point, we have that membrane or that rose meat started on the carcass. We're going to go ahead and use our hoist, and we're going to pull this off like a glove. You notice that we left the ends of the legs on this hide. We left those on for a reason. That way you take a chain and you go around that hide, and that helps hold that chain onto that hide as you're pulling. So you go ahead and use one hand, hold those legs. Just make sure this hide stays away from the carcass as you're pulling. So just start pulling that hide down. Use your knife where needed. just pulling it off like a glove. You can see that carcass is all nice and clean. There's no hair on it, there's no wool, no contamination, anything like that. So we showed you 2 different ways to skin a lamb, one by hand, one using a hoist. If you use these methods, I think you'll thank us later. Super easy, raise a lamb on your homestead. Don't be intimidated by the butchering process. Also, if you want to see how to cut a lamb, we're going to throw a link in the description in this video because we have a lamb processing video that you can watch. So with the harvest portion, the skinning, along with the processing, you've got a lamb down pat. We're the Bearded Butchers, White Feather Meats, Creston, Ohio. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. We have tons more to come. Also, Facebook, Instagram, the Bearded Butchers. Check us out. We think you're gonna like it. Thanks for watching.